Rob. Welcome to Axel's Garage. It's about 5 o'clock in the morning, and we are headed on our first road trip in 2023 Ford Maverick. It's a hybrid, and we're going to give you our review and our real-world mileage on this trip, and we'll take it every step of the way. We're leaving New York, like I said, 5 o'clock in the morning, trying to get through the city. We're going to go through Lower Manhattan so we get out of New York without paying any tolls, and we'll load it up pretty good, and we're going to be driving about 12 and a half hours or so. So we'll see you again at our first stop in Phillipsburg, New Jersey. That's right on the Jersey-Pennsylvania border on the west side of New Jersey. Now, we filled up prior to the trip. We've only got this vehicle. This is the 8th day. So on the 8th day, we road trip. We got it a week ago, so today is day 8. We've only put about 125 miles on it. Filled it up with fuel so that we can get a real-world estimate. We're not gonna feather the pedal. We're just gonna drive normally in normal mode for the trip down there, and then maybe we'll go eco mode back up, but we're gonna try to test some real-world mileage. So we got the trip odometer set, filled with fuel, not overfilled. We filled it until it clicked off, waited about 20 seconds, and then hit it again and clicked off again, and that was it. So to me, that's full, and that's the way we're gonna do it. Each fill up after this, and we'll see what kind of mileage we get, what kind of range we get, and we'll let you know. See you in on the Jersey-Pennsylvania border. All right, so we made our first stop in Phillipsburg, New Jersey, which is the New Jersey-Pennsylvania border. Maybe it's 2 or 3 miles, right, from Pennsylvania. We're not in Pennsylvania yet.
No.
We got 2.5. We just got back on the interstate, and we got 2.5 miles to go before we hit Pennsylvania. We're gonna go over a little bridge that you don't even realize is a bridge over the Delaware Water Gap into Pennsylvania. So our first leg was like, for argument's sake, about 88 miles or so. So the first bit of it, we were on the parkway or a highway, an interstate, for the choice of a better word. By us, we don't really call it an interstate. And it was sluggish traffic, 50 miles an hour, 55 tops, typical New York City suburb morning commute kind of traffic, and then it slowed down. Then we cut through Lower Manhattan, which is city driving. A lot of lights and stops, and the mileage really went up, I noticed, because we were in a lot of electric mode, and the mileage was like up in the high 50s, 58 I think, our average when we got out to the other side, to the west side of New York City, through the Holland Tunnel and into Jersey. We were like 58, and then we're on an interstate after that without a ton of traffic, so we're cruising at 65 is the speed limit. I had the cruise control set on 72. I tried to keep it right around 72, had to slow down to 70, 65, and through Jersey, cruise control on 72. We do have several mountains that we had to climb, and then we did have to come back down the other side of the mountain, of course, and that increased our mileage. But at 89 miles, what were we, 43.6, Michelle, or 46.3? 43.6. We were at 43.6 overall miles per gallon for the first leg of that trip, and that was about 2 hours of driving. It's our normal stop, and we switch. It drove fine. I never noticed. I thought that I would maybe not like the transmission that doesn't actually shift gears. But I didn't really even notice it. And if I didn't say the transmission doesn't shift gears, you probably would have never even noticed it either. But now Michelle's getting in. She's driving her first leg. We're back on the interstate. How do you feel?
Good.
I mean, this is the first time for you driving on the highway.
And welcome to Pennsylvania.
Yep, we just hit the Pennsylvania border, and I thought it drove really nice. I was happy with the driving position. No weird noises, rattles, very quiet in the cabin. Had the radio on. Was listening to some news radio just to keep my mind occupied, and it was quiet, except for you snoring. No, she didn't snore. She did fall asleep for a bit, 20 minutes, half hour. But the steering wheel was stable. The brakes do take a little bit of getting used to, and that's just a hybrid thing, I guess. Light to moderate braking was very, very normal. But when you had to hit that brake a little harder, where you're not braking in the regenerative mode, and you're actually using the hydraulic brakes, it was like a little sudden, and I think that's just getting used to the vehicle. But other than that, steering wheel was stable, not a shake, not a whistle. You can take your hands off the wheel if you have a nice straight, level, non-bumpy road, and it's just, yeah, right? And this is Pennsylvania, and their roads are usually pretty shitty, so. But
very smooth road.
We're on a smooth stretch right here, and it's stable. I can't complain about anything at this point, and especially the fuel economy. We're looking at 441 miles to empty, it's saying, and we're 94.5 miles in. So far, so good. We're getting about 10 now. It's at 43 miles to the gallon average, and so we're about 10 over what the sticker said. I think the EPA sticker says 33. So we'll see what kind of range we get in this next leg. We're headed to somewhere in Shippensburg, right? Shippensburg is our next stop. Shippensburg, Pennsylvania is our next stop, and we'll see you then. Right, we just made our second stop. Switched back. Michelle drove for about 2 hours. She got about 40 and a half miles per gallon. Went about 150 miles or so. And you get that when you turn the ignition off after a drive cycle, it'll give you your stats on that particular drive cycle. And I took a picture of what it was, and I'll put that up here. I believe that was like 144 miles was the exact number of miles. I think your miles per gallon was somewhere around 40 and a half. It was over 40, but it wasn't 41, so it was 40 point something. And of that drive, that 144 miles, over 15 miles, it wasn't 16, it was 15 point something, but over 15 miles was actually an all-electric power over, that period. And that all-electric power is probably when you're lifting off, coasting either down a long grade or something like that. So 15 miles of electric. Our overall, since we started, is 41.5 miles per gallon right now, and our distance to empty is 329. Now, we don't have our final destination in the GPS. We're using Apple CarPlay, and we're using the Waze lady to tell us where to go. We usually don't put our final destination in there because we want the Waze to take us the way we want to go, for the most part. I mean, if there's traffic, it'll detour us and stuff. So we put our next stop destination, which is usually about every 2 hours. Us old folks need to get out and stretch our legs and get something to drink, use the bathroom, that kind of stuff. I sat in the passenger seat, the whole time. I didn't recline it. I left it exactly the way you had it, a little partially reclined. I didn't snooze, but I was comfortable the whole time. Wasn't fidgety, plenty of leg room. The seat comfort was good. I mean, it's not, Lincoln Navigator good. Probably the Suburbans that we drive that are, 20-something years old have really big, comfy leather seats. But these seats are more than adequate, I would think.
I'm fine. No complaints.
Our way back home from a trip like this a few weeks ago, we were in a rental because we wrecked our nice rental, and we were in a little RAV4, and we were comfortable.
We didn't wreck it. Someone
Someone wrecked into us, but we were comfortable, right?
Yes.
So this is even more comfortable. There's a lot more room. It's very roomy in here as far as being able to shove our shit where we need it. We got drinks in the door, we got drinks in the console, we got drinks in the rear seat cup holders, because we get like halfway through a coffee and then it gets cold and we put it back and get a cold tray. We got stuff everywhere. So you drove for 2 hours or so.
Yep.
On the highway.
I was very comfortable.
Crappy Pennsylvania roads, right?
Yeah. It's not too big. Because I get the 8 miles of that road work where you have to, the lanes are this big.
Right.
Because of all the construction.
So it's a tight road, and in the Suburbans, you were always,
yeah,
doing one of those. With this, you were fine.
Yeah, I was fine.
So size-wise, although it's a
Cute.
small truck, it's really plenty big enough.
Yeah.
A lot of people say like this is the truck for people who really don't need a truck, or people that thought they didn't need a truck. We like having the bed for when we need it, but we don't always need it.
No.
In reality.
No.
And we're replacing. Yeah, we're replacing a Ram 1500. We had 2 leases, so we had 3-year and then a 3-year, which is ending in the next month or 2. And so we're going from a really big truck that felt big to drive. It wasn't any bigger than the Suburbans, but it felt really big. The visibility made it feel really big.
It's very comfortable though.
It was real comfortable.
Like driving a luxury car.
Right? Yeah, it was really,
on the highway.
it was loaded.
Highway.
Yeah, on the
Not around
highway.
town.
It was loaded really well. It was a great highway driving car, but it really wasn't a good fit for what we really needed.
No.
And it sucked gas down like crazy. Right now,
Yeah.
Steven's using it at school, and
It's good for him because where he is at school, there's open road.
but he's still complaining about how much gas he's using.
Yes. And he just goes from one parking lot to another.
Yeah.
Or down the road to get something to eat.
So,
Golfing.
Golfing, yeah. I'm happy right now. It's driving nice. We've had the climate control on auto. Seems to be very comfortable. It keeps a comfortable temperature. We don't really, we start out at like 72, 70 depending, and then we adjust it to where we're comfortable. The number that it's reading really is irrelevant. It's if we're comfortable or not. And for the most part, it's keeping us fairly comfortable. Sometimes, depending on how the sun's hitting the car, we might get a little cooler than normal or warmer than normal, and we adjust the temperature just a degree or 2. But it's working well. Nothing other than getting used to the brakes that I could see. No rattles.
You said that before.
No, I did say that before. You don't have to, correct me every time I speak.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, to tell me how to drive.
Yep.
The CarPlay, right? People talked about the screen, that the screen, they could have gave you a nicer screen. I don't know. The screen is fine to me.
Too many bells and whistles break.
Yeah, it's simple. The controls are simple, easy to use. The screen works. People complain about the camera, that the camera could be bad. I don't understand what that means, camera. You see behind you at night, you see during the day, you can tell how close you're backing up to something. You see your wheel width, you see
And
your
we
tracks.
drove for how many years without backup
Without
cameras?
camera, right.
So I don't even really...
I use it more to see how close I'm getting to something.
Yes.
Which is nice because you can see your back bumper in the camera, so you know when your back bumper is getting close
Yes,
to.
when I'm backing into work, I back up into a fence. So that's what I use it for.
But it's a smooth ride, and the CarPlay is not glitchy. We've been listening to, I did 2 hours listening to XM through CarPlay, and not glitchy at all. Never turned off on me. It never lost the connection or anything like that. And it's the wired CarPlay that we're using. We don't have any kind of dongle yet. We're gonna try one of them out, a wireless. But right now we're using the wired CarPlay. Everything is fine. We're doing, I don't know, it's almost 80 right now, and there's no wind noise at all compared to what we're used to driving 20-year-old cars.
Yeah.
And the CarPlay's been working, and then we've been listening to a podcast the next 2 hours. So. And that's playing perfectly. The volume is good. The sound quality is good. And this is the cheaper radio. It's not the, we didn't, I don't know if you could with the XLT or not. where you needed a lariat to bump up the. I don't know. That really wasn't important to me, so I didn't look at it. But what Michelle noticed towards the last 20 minutes of her 2-hour shift was she would have liked a little lumbar.
Yes.
And
my back starts to hurt.
yeah, I didn't notice that. I normally don't use the lumbar unless my back has been bothering me when I sit behind the wheel initially. You know, if I've been doing a lot of work and my back is kind of sore, that's really the only time I use the lumbar. And then I usually use it along with the heat, just for a little back relief. But that's just me. You needed a little bit of lumbar, would have been nice. Now, I don't know if the lumbar was an option. This is the XLT with the luxury package, so I'm guessing that if there is a lumbar option, it's with the lariat package, which is a big jump in price. And at some point, you know, we made videos talking about ordering and pricing and what options you should get, what options that you can stay away from to save a few bucks. You know, you start fully loading it, and then it's not the economical vehicle that it was designed to be. Even when we went, you know, we started at whatever it was, 21.5 or whatever the base XL was, and we were at, you know, 32, I believe, MSRP before fees and taxes. So we optioned it at about $10,000. How much more are you going to option it? You know, we did the luxury.
Get a whole different car.
Right, we did the luxury. We did the black. We did the sunroof. You know, so far I'm happy with the choices that we made as far as keeping it.
I like sunroofs.
You like, yeah. She likes the sunroof. That's why we got it. I think the sunroof, when the sunshade, you don't have to open it, but the light coming through, I think it makes the cabin feel a little bigger as well. You're not so closed in.
Not with all electronics.
Cruising along, 41.4 miles to the gallon, and we've driven 246 miles. And it's saying 318 to empty. We'll check back in with you in our next stop with any further updates. It's been another 2 hours, and we are still averaging over 40 miles to the gallon. It seems that it's in the high 30s, I think, our highway MPG. And I think Michelle does a little better miles per gallon. She doesn't use the cruise control. I use the cruise control, and I don't do as well fuel-wise with the cruise control. Now, mind you, we're driving like we would normally drive. We're not trying to save fuel. We're not feathering the pedal. We're not doing anything we wouldn't normally do. Just trying to go to see what our mileage is. Yeah, you can, what do they call it? Hyper pedal or something like that. They call it something to try to maximize your economy. We're just driving. It's normal mode. You know, I use cruise control all the time, so I'm using cruise control. When Michelle drives, she doesn't, so she's not. And we're just going. And it looks like the over 40 average was because we had that good hour drive that, you know, took us till we got out of New York when we were doing electric and gas back and forth for a good bit to get out of the city, where we got 58 miles to the gallon until we hit Jersey, got on the interstate, and went. Cruise control, I like it because it's got now, remember, we're coming from old technology cruise control where it was just pretty much one button to set it, and you couldn't adjust your speed up and down without like turning it off and resetting it all over again. This one is sort of like the Ram, where I can, you know, bump it up a mile an hour at a time and bump it down a mile an hour at a time when I see traffic ahead of me. Now, when we ordered this back in September of 22, I had never driven a vehicle with adaptive cruise control. And I actually did about 2 months ago. We rented a Navigator. Was it a Navigator?
Yep.
Lincoln Navigator.
Beautiful car.
Really nice. Really expensive. But we rented one, and it had the adaptive cruise control. And once I got used to that, it had the lane keep assist and the adaptive cruise control, and I absolutely loved it. It was easy to use, and it was like feet-free driving, pretty much, when you're on the interstate. I didn't get that in this, and I didn't get it because I didn't know what it was, and it was, you know, marketed as the Copilot 360 in that package. Yeah, well, I just ignored Copilot 360. I'm like, it's some technology. I don't know what it was in my mind that made me ignore it. I don't know what it was. I wasn't looking for adaptive cruise control because I had never driven a car with adaptive cruise control. So it wasn't really important to me, and I glazed over it really fast. And that's one thing that I think it's like a 900. It's like the sunroof. So it's around $1,000, I believe. I could be wrong. If that's the case, that's an option to get for the. I think so, for $1,000. It gives you the blind spot indicators. It gives you your lane keep assist and your adaptive cruise control. I don't know if it does anything else, but I would have spent $1,000 on that.
Too late now.
Yeah.
I like the blind spot thingies.
I do too. Not that you really need it, especially in this. It's just nice to have. Especially on a long trip, you start zoning a little bit, and you might not be aware of your surroundings as good as you should be because it gets monotonous on a long trip. You know, going around town, the blind spot, because you're paying attention more than you are, I think, taking a trip like this. So we are headed through Central Virginia on Interstate 81. We just left Harrisonburg, Virginia, not Harrisburg. Harrisonburg, Virginia. And we got about another hour. We're making a scheduled stop at one of our favorite barbecue places, which is a gas station barbecue. And that's at mile marker 195 off of Interstate 81 in Virginia, Smiley's Fuel City. And we'll probably fuel up there as well, because they usually have some good discount fuel. That's why it's Fuel City, and they have pretty good barbecue.
Very good barbecue.
So, what are you getting? What are you getting? Brisket?
Brisket.
She's getting brisket.
I like brisket better than pork.
And I think I'm going to get a brisket too.
Yes, because then he eats his barbecue, and then he's like, I should have got the brisket.
Yeah, and then we're
getting... Because I always make the right decision.
And we're getting Emily barbecue.
Yes, Emily loved Smiley's.
Smiley's, but she wants regular pork barbecue.
Correct.
Yep. And then I'll take a snooze for an hour, and then it'll be my turn again.
Sounds like a plan.
We'll catch up with you soon.
Right.
Maybe we'll get you some scenic mountain views heading through, what is this? The Great Valley. We are in the Great Valley. And if you don't know what the Great Valley is in American history, check it out. This is how all the Scottish migrated down. You don't want me to go on that tangent? I guess not. We'll be back.
You can. I wasn't sighing or anything. I'm just breathing.
Look like you were rolling your eyes through your sunglasses.
Nope, not at all, honey.
We'll catch up with you on
I know you like to talk, so talk away.
We'll catch up with you on our first fuel stop over at Smiley's Fuel City. By the way, we got, 167 miles to empty according to the computer. We're going to get fuel, and we're going to see what the computer says, and then we're going to see whether our actual fuel says. By how much fuel we put in, we can determine what our MPG is within the margin of error of the fuel, pump shutting off, assuming it shuts off relatively the same place every time. Hopefully it does. So we are 550 miles into the trip. We stopped at Fuel City. I mistakenly said Fuel City.
State line,
Smiley's.
22 miles.
State line, 22 miles. 22 miles will be in North Carolina. We're in, I guess you would, southwestern Virginia, this is. Hillsville. I believe it's Hillsville, I don't know. Somewhere down there. We're on 77 in approaching the North Carolina border from the Virginia side. So we're 550 miles into the trip. We left at about 5:30 this morning. It is now, what time? 4:15 or so. Stop for lunch, 205. It's Virginia 81, exit 205, not 195. I think I said 195. And we had it's one of our favorite fast food barbecue places, right? It's kind of fast foodie.
Yeah, but
right?
It's home cooking.
Right, but it feels fast foodie. It's,
oh yeah, you order at a counter in a gas station.
At a counter in a gas station. So we had a brisket sandwich each, and we split a pulled pork.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Really good.
But we're hitting our averages. It was 39.1 when we just stopped and switched spots. So we filled back up again, 11.4 gallons. It seemed like we put a lot in. Like this pump seemed to fill it farther than the other pump, and how many miles we drove compared to how many gallons of gas we put in the truck brought us to what 36.3. So figuring it out that way, it's 36.3. The car was telling us it was 39.6. So let's say 36 and a half to 39 and a half, 3 mile per gallon difference. Let's split the difference and make it a mile and a half. So 36, 37 and a half, 38. So let's call that average 38 over the first 414 miles. I think that's satisfactory.
Yeah.
You got anything to add, lady?
Well, you were sleeping for 2 hours. I drove.
I had to take a little nap.
Yes. I drove, and it was fine. It's very nice. It's a nice and smooth ride. Very comfortable.
Yeah, smooth road. It's a really smooth ride. Bumpy road, you feel it a little bit, but it still isn't horrible. I mean, it's not as good as our old Suburbans as far as handling the smaller bumps in the road.
Yeah, you can't compare.
Big bumps, it really is no different, but it's those little bumps that you feel a little bit more in this. Probably just because it's a smaller vehicle to begin with. It's got lower profile tires than our big full-size trucks. But on a smooth road, it's smooth.
Traveling purposes, this is fine.
Yeah.
And we travel a lot to see the kids, so as long as I'm happy, you're happy.
Yeah, usually.
And I'm very comfortable driving it, so.
I am too. It's really roomy. We're really able to stretch out, and when you're taking your break on the passenger side, whether you recline the seat, it's plenty of room.
I mean, if you're gonna have 2 people in the back seat when you're traveling, it'll be a little small.
Depends on the size of the people.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't do a 12-hour road trip with 2 full-size adults in the back. So, well, maybe.
Yeah, I would sit in the back and have Steven or our kids, and Steven or Robbie sit in the front.
I mean, you could do it.
Oh yeah, you can.
But for mainly for like what we use now, where it's just the 2 of us, it's absolutely perfect.
Especially with the price of gas.
Yeah, I haven't figured out anything I really don't like.
It makes it much easier. We're always stopping for gas, and it's $100, $100.
At least.
Right, at least.
Well, the weird thing is, like you were looking at the gas gauge saying, okay, we're at half tanks. You have to wrap your head around what that means.
Right.
Because we're used to a half a tank being 18 gallons in the Suburban. The Suburban has a 33-gallon tank. This only has I think it's a 13.8-gallon tank. So a half a tank doesn't mean the same thing.
Right.
It might mean the same thing in range, thereabouts.
Well, when I have a half tank in the Suburban, 3 days later or 2 days later, I need gas.
Yeah.
And my gas light goes on. This lasted when we got gas, when we filled it up. I drove it a whole week between me and you driving it, and we were only at a half tank.
Well, yeah, when we picked it up, it was
full.
It was full.
And you took it to work, I take it to work.
And it had 20 miles on it when we picked it up.
Right.
And we put about 100 on it.
Right.
Over the course of 7 days. And it had barely moved. It was more than 3/4, right?
Yes. I was always noticing, it said 367 miles till empty.
Yeah.
And 364 miles till empty the next day. Might be my turn to nap now. When you're up at 4 a.m. and take little cat naps all day. Well, we could sleep in tomorrow morning. We don't have to be up at the crack ass dawn.
Well, we made it. We saw Emily was outside of her dorm. We picked her up and took her to dinner. We didn't film. It got dark. So I'll give you the rundown on what our mileage was. The last leg of the trip was, Michelle's holding the phone for me. The last leg of the trip was 339 miles. We went a total of 753 miles. Now, those miles were predominantly highway. We had some city driving cutting through New York City at 5:30 in the morning, and we had a little bit of city driving when we picked Emily up at school before we got to the hotel, and the only other city driving was when we pulled off at a rest stop for fuel or to eat or to just stretch our legs. So it's a good indicator of your actual highway miles. So on that second fill up, the car itself was telling us that we were getting 38.9 miles to the gallon, and we fueled it up, did the math, and got 37.5. So I'm gonna roughly say that it's probably in between somewhere, and I think 38 miles to the gallon is a good number to go with. Just the computer might be a mile or so higher than the actual is. There's a lot of variation in how much fuel goes in the tank when you fill it up, depending on the pump that you're using and how fast the fuel comes out and when it tells it that it's full. So there is some variation in that. All in all, 38, 39 miles per gallon is pretty good. You don't have to hold it up anymore.
Sorry.
Right? I mean, we used to get in your Suburban, we get 16 if we drive it nice and easy. In my Suburban, we get 14 highway. So that was a treat, to get 38 to 39 miles to the gallon. I did notice, though, as soon as we get off that highway and do some around town driving, that monitor in the vehicle, it tells you your average mile per gallon goes up pretty fast. So it starts, jumping up there, and I'm happy with that, and that's our mileage report. Now, remember, we did not try to save. We drove like we normally drive. I didn't constantly look at it. I kind of forgot about it and just drove my normal way, and Michelle drove her normal way. One thing that I did notice when I went and sat in the seat today was the issue with her with the seat, with the lumbar. The driver's seat has lumbar. We just didn't realize that the button was there. It's got a round button, it's power lumbar. I guess the power seat has all those features. The manual seat on the passenger side, however, does not have lumbar. And not even a manual lumbar. And Ford does manual lumbar because I drive a Ford at work that has manual lumbar. So I'm not a big lumbar user. Michelle does use the lumbar, really only when she's driving.
Yeah.
So for us, that works out, having the lumbar on this seat and not that seat. Your results may vary. That's our rundown. In the next video, we're going to document the return trip, and we're going to try to drive in eco mode. Now, we're going to drive normally. We're not going to try to be feathering the pedal and hyper pedaling or whatever they call it. We're just going to set it in eco mode and try to remember each time we get it. Maybe we got to put a little post-it on the dashboard, because it defaults. Yeah, I do too, and it defaults to normal mode. So every time we get in and key it on, we got to set it to eco mode, and we'll see if the eco actually does anything over a long trip. Around town, that would have to be a different kind of test.
So you set it to eco mode? Because I know in the Ram, when we drive it, eco comes on and off.
Right, that's knocking down cylinders. I'm not sure what the eco mode does in a hybrid.
Okay.
The eco mode, it's got sport mode, it's got slippery mode, it's got all those modes in it.
Right.
The eco mode is supposed to be more economical. It's eco. So we'll see.
Well, we need eco for 12-hour driving trips.
Yeah, but all in all, we only got gas twice.
Yeah.
I think we didn't even use 30 gallons of gas.
Yeah.
What did we get? We got 11 the first time, and 8 or something, whatever it was the second. Yeah, we used 20 gallons of gas to get all the way here. And that was a 753 was our total mile. 753.
Yeah.
which is normally a 12-hour or so drive. 12 hours and 10 minutes is usually how long it takes to drive time, which normally takes us about 13 and a half hours with stops and stopping to eat and not eating while we drive, just so that we can be like humans.
Yes. So eating on the run. We're at that age where we don't need to.
Yeah, we don't rush anymore. We just take the nice drive and enjoy it as we go. That's it.
Old age gets you.
Yeah, old age, right. That's it today from Axel's Garage. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let us know in the comments below what kind of mileage are you getting. And I'd really like to know what kind of mileage are you getting, real world mileage, in a non-hybrid, in the 2-liter EcoBoost. Because that was a big decision to make, whether you go hybrid or you go EcoBoost. I went to hybrid because I wasn't willing to go EcoBoost and then spend the extra money to get all-wheel drive. The hybrid, you don't have that choice. It's going to be front-wheel drive, and it just seemed like a less expensive way of doing it. And usually if you're buying a Maverick, you're trying to buy something a little less expensive. That's part of the reason why you're buying it. But that's our review. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.
Bye.